This episode of the podcast is brought to you by KC Consulting.
Hey guys, let's talk a little bit about your social media marketing efforts. And I get it's something that you've been putting off because there's so much work that's involved. Fortunately, I'm here to tell you that you don't need to take on the burden of managing your social media channels alone. KC Consulting is a premier social media marketing agency based in Dallas, Texas that specializes in strategy, content creation, channel management, paid advertising, graphic design, and SEO/SEM services. The agency is hyper-focused on helping cannabis companies navigate through the uncharted waters that they've been forced to endure due to the lack of FDA regulation in regards to sales and marketing messaging. We all know social media marketing is challenging, and it's especially challenging when operating a business in cannabis. So when your marketing plans or lack thereof seem too daunting and overwhelming, it's important to have a trusted partner to ensure your social media presence is healthy and active. Take your social media marketing efforts to the next level with KC Consulting. Email them today for a free quote at social@kcconsulting.co. That's social@kcconsulting.co. Add value, not noise. KC Consulting. Hello everyone, Kevin Carrillo here, and welcome to another episode of the Cannabinoid Connect podcast. My guest today is Annie Epley, Director of Operations at From Soil to Soul.
So much has happened. There's so much to cover.
I know. So first off, I really like the Christmas tree in your background. Very festive for this time of year.
Thanks.
For people that are just listening, yeah, you got it all set up. It looks nice. Is that your living room?
No, this is my friend's living room. So I'm puppy sitting. So, I'm a puppy sitter. It's one of my COVID pivots.
Right.
She has this beautiful Christmas tree and it's not by a window. So I was like, well, let me do some of my calls by your tree. But it's crazy. This tree's gotten more attention than I have. So I think it was a good prop.
Yeah, because everybody kind of just mentions it or has something to say about it. Yeah, it's a showstopper for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Annie, it's good to talk with you today. For those listening, I have Annie Epley on. She's the Director of Operations at From Soil to Soul. And Annie, we're going to get into Soil to Soul's mission and all that. But first and foremost, it was really great to see you this past weekend at the CBD Expo in Houston.
The pleasure was definitely all mine, Kevin. It was great to just not be in a crowded space. I felt like we were definitely COVID compliant. Got some quality conversations there, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one thing that I just kind of, as I sat back, going there for the first time, especially during a pandemic like this. And of course, the conference followed guidelines, masks were mandated and social distancing and things like that. But I was just so surprised to see the resilience of the industry. I mean, people are showing up, and they're coming in person, they're following the guidelines, but you can tell that there's that passion for the plant and thinking about its potential for more medicine and other purposes,
Yeah, one of the biggest things I noticed, because I frequent these. It's not my first rodeo, but that there were a lot of first timers at this CBD Expo. So there's a lot of fresh folks coming into the industry at such a crucial time. So I was really, really happy to see that, and just honored to get to meet some of those people in the beginning of their cannabis journey. So I felt like an oldie.
You're one of the OGs. Yeah, you and Elise. But you're right. I mean, and I think a lot of it is probably people from Texas, right? Like Texas being in its first grow season and hemp being legal nationwide. So there's this like sense of curiosity, I think, like, what is CBD? What does it get you high? What does it do? So I agree with you. Yeah, I had that feeling as well. Any takeaways or things that you really took from the conference that you've reflected on?
Well, yeah, first of all, I'd like to just shout Celeste out. Like, holy moly, what a BA. I don't want to use profanity. I know we're a family show, but she if you take a look at those of us who were throwing these larger conferences, you can just look at how they just didn't go through. And there were probably a lot of situations that we could have pushed the bill and kind of ruffled some feathers to make it happen, but we were trying not to upset anybody, and we were trying to play it safe, and the cannabis industry doesn't need us to be playing it safe. We need for people to be putting their neck out there. So hats off to the operators and the guys throwing that event, and Celeste. I mean, I know you saw her just from one end to the other, just really in that space, solution ready to just bust out some solutions. So we were excited to see that. And one of the other big takeaways that I got in the conversations I had was the folks in Texas that had been to other states and kind of witnessed some of the things that weren't going so well there, had those things like in the forefront of their mind, like QR code, for instance. Just making sure they are now having the mentality of, what, we know it's going to get to here, so let's just start there. So I'm starting to see a culture. I'm starting to see a culture and some integrity and just kind of a different, for the lack of better words, culture, that is brewing amongst the industry. So I was really excited to see that.
Yeah, and everybody is contributing to that sense of culture that's being implemented right now, and you mentioned Celeste being one, did a great job. You're right. Hats off to Celeste and all the operators working, and people like yourself who were panelists and speakers who are educating these newcomers that are coming in, but it's just such an exciting time, and you're right. There is that sense of the players that are currently in an industry that is basically self-regulated, right? There is no federation. We're doing the right things, and you saw that firsthand in Texas. That, hey, well, we know that it's probably gonna come down the road, so we might as well be operating in compliance now.
Yeah, man, people were considering packaging. People were considering, they were just really thinking outside of the box. So, a couple of, in our 86 legislation, when we just fought all this out in Texas a couple of years ago, it was different. It was not the same. You saw a lot of trash. You saw a lot of like, oh, let's hurry up and put it together in the garage just so we have something. Yeah. And in this space, I really saw some quality stuff coming out where they're actually thinking about the ingredients in the product. Not going back to some of those, product stabilizers, that keep the shelf life longer, that we are kind of jumping into some more fruit, vegetable, and root-based options. So I was really stoked to see that and able to drink some of the sodas and the beverages and not get that kind of just discomfort that soda pop carries. So I was happy to see that. I think there's an evolution in the food and beverage space, and yeah, I was happy to see that because I love the hemp drinks. So I was real stoked. And I'm trying to quit drinking alcohol. So, I really saw an opportunity there. That was what was huge, because when I was drinking that can, I was like, dude, I could see myself in a setting drinking this instead of the alcohol. So yeah, I was really excited about that, just seeing the evolution of that.
Yeah, I totally agree. The drink you're talking about was Sati, I think is what it's called, by the David McLaughlin.
Yes.
And he was so smart because I was moderating that panel for food and beverage, and he gave every panelist, and including myself, the moderator, a can. And so as we're talking, and even before we're drinking it, and I had the same feeling. I was like, it mellowed me out. I felt good, and I want to cut back drinking also, right? So there are different kind of alternatives that you can look to, like CBD infused drinks that that are great, great.
Oh yeah, I'm a water drinker. So I don't drink soda, I don't drink juice, I don't really drink anything with sugar in it. It's water, and I'm intentional about the water I drink. It's got to be high alkalinity, spring water. I mean, I'm very serious about it. So the only bad thing that I put into my body when it comes to that is liquor and beer. So yeah, and the same thing on my panel, I was so sold because really since 2009, I've been in this space. That's the first beverage that I tasted that I saw a future in food. And I'm like, okay, we can start playing with this because I can stomach it. And I'm sure that you can maybe relate to that in some of the tinctures and stuff. It's like you really have to get some cajonas in order to test some of that stuff. So yeah, bro, I was really happy to see it, enough so that I did the same thing on every panel I sat at. I made sure not only the folks on the panel had the opportunity, to have that instead of soda or something else that they would have had. And they chose to have that drink. So yeah, dude, he that was the marketing genius.
It was a good product placement, but again, it actually did what it's intended to do. So it was a win-win for everybody who did it. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, David.
Thank you, David. Shout out to David. Yeah.
Shout out.
So I know Mace Media is putting on, and Celeste and the crew, they're putting on like 9 other events in next year. Now, of course, depending on the climate and if there's, no foreseeable lockdowns, things like that, and they're able to do so, are you planning to go to any of those others?
Absolutely, man. Some of the biggest connections that I made, I was born in Louisiana. So I part of my star soul lives in Louisiana, I believe. And so there's some big stuff happening there. There's not a lot of education, not a lot of phenomenal products. So, yes, I absolutely see myself going there. I actually sent Celeste a message yesterday and said, girl, don't even hiccup. Like, let me know where you need someone. And I would love to go there and just deliver some truth. And, yeah, and we're, talking about, because as you're familiar with, we had a psychedelic panel at the CBD Expo, which we were super excited about. The room was packed out. The biggest complaint about that conversation was that we just didn't have enough time. There was a line of folks waiting to speak to each panelist. So wink, wink, Celeste, I think we better jump on that. So yeah, I think that it's important to start taking some of these bigger topics that are in the CBD Expo and stuff like that, where we are receiving that feedback of, wow, we really need some more information there, which I think that Celeste really hit hard on a lot of those panels where it was like, oh God, people just needed more information, to start branching out and making a conference for that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when I talked to her, I think, because I remember, I think she said 9, but I think one of those 9 is a psychedelic specific conference that she's going to.
Wonderful. Well, yeah, hopefully she'll incorporate. Celeste, we went on board. Pull soil to soul, we went in there. So, yeah, man, I think that the biggest thing in this space is evolution. I think the worst thing that we could do is regurgitate information for too long and sit stagnant, on the same beliefs that got us to where we are, or beliefs that are close to, like, oh, we'll never be able to execute an expo. Well, if the state, the city, everybody says so, well, why can't you?
Right. And everybody's practicing guidelines, of course. Yeah, you can do it. You can do it responsibly, and we're all adults,
Yeah.
Well, okay, so this is you brought up a good topic, which I'm fascinated with, and I've had a few guests on talking about the psychedelic space. And I know that before we even saw each other at the expo, we had a conversation before we recorded, and you were talking a little bit about your recent DMT journey. And I want to hear more about that. I told you, don't tell me too much, because I wanted to save it for this episode. So for those listening, dimethyltryptamine, basically it's a chemical that our brain naturally produces. So it's I think it's produced through our pineal gland.
Mm-hmm, that's correct. And twice in our life.
Twice.
So once when we're born, once when we die.
Right, exactly. So when you take DMT in its extracted state, or whatever, however you consume it, it's kind of like depiction of that type of feeling, right? Of those two, being born or dying. So I may have butchered it, Annie, but I'll let you take it away. Tell me your your experience and kind of what all you went through.
Well, I'm going to tell you, they called this DMT a ceremonial drug, a journey drug, or a molecule. And I think with that being said, anything that opens the pineal gland, which, and I'm going to go opinion based, right? Because I'm not a doctor. I'm my own doctor. I do my own research in my own realm.
So all anecdotal, experiential, theoretical
Correct.
stuff we're talking about here, guys. So
Super disclosures all over the place, like disclosures I even forgot to say. We're just going to say that. Yeah. I'm going to tell you what happened was, I feel like the universe, my spirit guides, whatever folks want to call their own, but I'm going to tell you from my personal Annie Epley, my spirit guides, and when my husband passed, directed that molecule to me. I didn't go looking for it. I didn't know what it was. I had heard a little bit about it. And I had thought, which now I know was a download, that it can be a very heavy therapeutic experience. And so I didn't realize that we could actually get that penile to express that type of behavior with breathing properly, just through breathing properly. So, it's kind of like Tetris.
When you talk about breathing exercises, that's the same as if, like, say you went to a private fitness instructor and, as an athlete or even just getting in shape, they teach you proper breathing techniques so that your blood and oxygen levels kind of open up, right? Correct. All kind of related to the pineal gland opening up, as you mentioned there also. Correct.
So when I decided to utilize this as opposed to ayahuasca as my journey molecule, I felt in my spirit, because I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I felt that there was something blocking me, that I kept getting to like this level, like eye level, and then it just never rocketed off. It was like there was this cap in my success, in my personal success, in my everything, the way I felt about myself, the way I lived. And I needed to go figure out why. And my spirit guide specifically said to me that I needed to heal little Annie. That little Annie was so broken and she was scared, and I needed to help her get out of there. And so after that download happened, it was just like hours, like a couple of days, like I'm telling you, like 72 hours or something.
And these are things that you necessarily maybe not have realized before, right? Like,
yeah, it was just this light bulb kind of thing.
Right.
And then when I started to research the DMT, I was like, okay. And once I realized that it was a natural reaction that happens in our brain and that we could put ourselves to that state, I began to research Wim Hof, and I began to get those type of, breathing exercises in place. And so what I learned in trying to do that myself is, one, it takes a long time to master. It's not going to happen overnight. And, I had a download that said you need the mimosa bark. So let's take the toad out of it, right? Let's take the toad completely out of it, because I didn't believe in harming animals.
And let's back up for people that don't know. So DMT can be extracted in a couple of different ways, if not several, right? So one is through blades of grass in the natural ecosystem, as well as like from toads, right? Like the skin of a toad. And
correct. Yeah, correct. So when I began to research it, all that I had heard about was, the toad medicine. And until you can prove to me that that's not going to harm or hurt that toad, or that toad's not going to have to go through some kind of chemical release, then I don't want to harm the toad.
Right.
So when mimosa bark kept coming to me. And so then I get on Google and I'm like, what's this mimosa bark? And then I find it's DMT. Essentially, it will, open this pineal quickly and for a very short amount of time, so that what it kind of was feeding me is that I was going to get kind of micro, it wasn't going to be just this full on situation where it was like, hello, you're asleep, now you're awake, and get used to it.
Right. And you were interested in this because of the breathing techniques. So as you did more research, you came across DMT, and it does that, but only probably times 10, right? In a way where you microdose over time and you can really get to the heart of where you're lacking and things that you want to do to improve. Right? Is that kind of your path?
Yeah, and the whole reason that I did the whole plant medicine journey was after my husband passed away. So that was really what kind of stuck it in, because I just didn't really know how I was going to get past not having him. And I needed, and it's crazy because I say to you, my guides, I mean, I had voices in my head which people would call you crazy, which now I know they're my guides, guiding me to tell me, but that I needed to understand where he was going.
Mm-hmm.
So it was almost like my spirit self would not allow me to sit in that depression because I had too much work to do. I have such a massive purpose on this planet in this time that it was almost like, and I know this now, that like, listen, we don't have time for you to murmur over that. Let us show you where he is. So then you can get past it and move on. And that was around the whole little Annie message that I got too. So I decided to get a shaman and go on this journey. And man, what happened?
Where was the shaman? Like, where did this take place?
In Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in Colorado, I was there in Colorado. And so it was literally a divine meeting, a meeting of divinity. I mean, the person called and said, hey, for some reason, I feel like I'm supposed to talk to you about DMT. And it was like, oh my gosh, like just, all right, the FBI's watching me, my phones are bugged, the computer's bugged, but I knew better. I knew that it was like, okay, my spirit guide, something big is about to happen. And kind of what happened is I mean, holy moly. Well, my life changed. I went into this journey, and I mean, like you and I are sitting here today, Kevin, like just as real as this is, as your listeners can hear our voices. Whenever I got to the point where I could hold my breath till infinity, I didn't need to take breath.
What?
I mean, it is mind blowing until you experience. I didn't need to take breath. And within that breath, what I thought I was in there for about 2 days was probably about 45 minutes, was that deep experience.
That's what I've heard. So like I've heard the experience it seems so much longer than what it is. Like a typical DMT experience is like what, 15 to 45 minutes, like you said, to probably
15 to 20, well 10 to 15 really.
Okay.
But when you're intentional, you can't really heal anything in 10 to 15 minutes. You know what I'm saying? I did it in 45, but to tell you, I mean, when I went in there, it was like, I mean, to a corner, and everything, my whole mind, my whole being met little Annie in that corner, and everything was dark, and I just zeroed in on her. And you could ask, Elise, my partner, because she was there experiencing this as a bystander, someone I trusted. She was my safe zone. She was my grounder. And whenever I went in, like when the pineal was expressed, I went immediately into the fetal position, which is how I found Annie, in that black corner in the fetal position. And when I first went in, it was so uncomfortable and so scary because I was fighting through the ego.
Right.
I was fighting through the things that are saying, no, don't do that. The fear, don't do this. Go back before it's too late. Yeah. So once I got to her, man, it was over. It was over.
So in that 45-minute span, like, were you gradually kind of microdosing more, or was it kind of just one time dose in that experience where you just fought through to get to the center of what the issue was with little?
I think I remember being assisted with another.
Yeah.
Because in it, I was like, I'm coming out, but I'm almost there. And I do remember having it in a distillate form, where I hit a pin held another breath and kept it. And then I went in and finished my work. I think I remember that. So maybe my guides facilitated that additional, I don't know, but it was a journey, my man. Like,
or it's you just knowing that like you said, you were almost there. You hadn't really got to the core, like to address the real issue. And then once you did that, you knew that that's what you needed to kind of reach the end.
Well, what I felt in my being, like I knew in my spirit light, was once I had a hold of her hand, little Annie, once I coaxed her out of that corner and she stood up, and it was so nuts, my brain. So as she was in the fetal position, she was in black. She was dressed in black. I was in white. I was all white, beautiful white light. She was in black. When she stood and decided to walk with me through the shadow hall, is the only way that I could explain it to you, of all the hurt that we had been through our lives, all the lies we had been told. You'll never amount to anything. You're worthless. You know, all of these just societal lies. Once poor, always poor, you know, through rape, through family molestation. All of these things are there. They're inside of us, and they're creating this imbalance of chaos. So once I grabbed her hand, this beautiful white dress, she had her pigtails, and almost like we were ready to skip through this journey. And I grabbed her hand, and I could feel her like you and I are talking. I felt her grab my hand, and I looked down at her and I said, "Are you ready?" And she said, "I'm scared." And we walked through, and the only way that I can explain it is, so the hall was just as long as you could see, which is what made me feel like I was there for so long. It was walking through all of the shame and the lies. And as we're walking, we're beautiful white lights, and we're trying to get to the white light. And as close as we get, you have all of these bad things that have happened to us that I can only explain had shadow guns. And they were trying to shoot our light out as we were making it through. But the further we got through, there was nothing that could have been done. And once I reached that light, I hugged her, and she was gone. Little Annie was gone. And then I came to at that point. And when I came to, arms like a starfish on the carpet, and I was just bawling. "It's not your fault. It's not your fault." And reassuring little, like, "Oh my, thank you. I love you. You know, you're good. You're loved. You're beautiful. You're pure light." And wow, man, I'm like shaking right now, vibrating, if you will, just telling you the story. Because
well, the way
that's where my depression sat, man.
the way you explain it, it's so vivid. Like I'm literally like picturing
You can see it.
you're going through it. Yeah. And I can't imagine the sense of like relief that you felt at the end. Like once you reach that light, you know, in a way it was kind of a small victory in that you addressed, you know, certain things that may have subconsciously affected you in the past, you know, that may have hindered your performance or the way you look at life. And you were able to overcome it or take it head on, face it head on.
Evan, it was life-changing. It was a huge victory. I'm about to tell you what happened after I came out of that. And Elise, if I'm lying, I'm dying, y'all. Elise can definitely attest because she was there. I did not speak for the next 3 days. I did not speak. I was in a state of awareness. Because we're all enlightened. We are all enlightened. It's being in that constant state of awareness that makes us different. I know I can sit in meditation and open my third eye to get to a message that I'm trying to receive. I know that I can isolate myself from energies and recharge my own energy in order to occupy space in places that would normally make me feel uncomfortable. In those 72 hours, I went in there because I had a blockage. You remember we were talking about that before we talked about the journey, is that I had this blockage and I just couldn't get to the next level. There was just this human cap. It was like, yeah, once a loser, always a loser, you know? And once I didn't believe that, bro, it was just insane. I mean, I wrote the business plan, SOP, open the bank account, LLC. I mean, you name it, to Soil to Soul. In the next probably week after that happened, we secured 9 contracts in 3 different states. So I did heal myself, and I think that we have this stigma that has been attached to the word cure, because we are all healers. We were made to cure ourselves. And do I believe that I cured my depression? Absolutely. And you know how I know that? Because I don't feel the darkness anymore.
Right. And even at a minimum, if people like you who have that same experience don't fully resolve it, at least at the minimum, they're aware of it, right? And they
Absolutely. Because you're seeing now when you open the pineal gland, you're seeing things reality. I know you've probably heard it before, but we have so many shaders on. We have so many things that have blocked our true perception on this planet, that it's like an onion.
well,
You have to.
there's distractions too, right? I mean, how much time do we spend on our screens, on our phones, on our computers, on the TV? I mean, there's just a lot of different distractions where there's not enough time in the day for most people to do self-reflection and do.
Don't even say that, Kevin. Don't even say it, because I believe that is just what we've told ourselves. Because you do have time while you sleep to do self-reflection.
I self-reflect at night in bed, of course, when I have quiet time. But during the day, I have no choice but to stare in front of a screen from 9 to 5 because I'm doing podcasts and I'm answering emails and I'm operating a business. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be that balance. It's like a catch-22. I wish that I could pull away, especially off of social media. But I mean, I've set up. I run a social media marketing agency. I mean.
Mm-hmm. I would encourage you, Kevin, to, create a space in the middle of your day where you do take that 10, 15 minutes that you're dedicated to that time to just recharge, to literally just kind of let some of those things go. Because more and more of our jobs and engagements are virtual, where we're on the computer 24/7. I'm telling you, after the conference, holy moly, I've got a lot of data to work through. So I'm going to be on the computer for, a couple of days, but I know, because I'm working in this space of healing, that it will affect me. It's going to affect my sleep. It's going to affect the relationship I have with my daughter, because it does make me a little more snippy, things like that. So for me, there's so much value in taking 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the afternoon, and 10 minutes, in the evening, and being unapologetically dedicated to that time.
Right. No, I totally agree. And I don't want to make it sound like I'm hustling all day. I mean, I make time to take the dogs for a walk. When it's
You need an assistant.
when it's warmer, I'll do a run or a bike ride. Now that it's colder, I'm kind of more of in hibernation mode. But
Mm-hmm.
but that I really love the origin story of what you're talking about with Soil to Soul. So this was really your experience with a shaman in Colorado and just uncovering all these subconscious kind of what would you lies. Yeah, exactly, that have just been embedded in your system over time. And it's just what, like you said, that people that are bullied, people that have been told things in the past that people are just being mean to them, right? They don't necessarily need to believe those lies, because that could be a deterrent from greatness.
Oh gosh, absolutely. Absolutely. We have raised a humanity of judgment and fear. And we can fix that. We can fix that. And we just have to do it, and we have to be intentional about doing that. I think that's why my purpose lies a lot with adults that are being aged out of our foster care system and the state system, who's capturing these young adults and reprogramming them, because all of the chaos that has happened to them in that system, who's working on that reprogramming? There really isn't a lot of organizations that focus specifically on that. So, in one of my journeys, that was one thing that was brought to me, that was very specific and said, you have to do something about this.
Right.
I don't have any friends or family that grew up in the system or was aged out or treated a certain type of way, but I feel like that's part of my purpose is to ode some time to it, to grab a couple of those folks that love. Yeah, man, I think that humanity's gotten so comfortable with throwing each other away that this plant and root medicine is a way to get off of all of these chemicals produced through big pharma and start to get our neurological health back. Because really that's where it all starts. And I know, as you know, with the ECS, our ECS manages our neuro and our intestinal. So when you think about it, the ECS is the most important system. And we used to get that from food we ate. Our cows used to eat cannabinoids, and so our meat had it in it, but that's just not the case anymore. So along with all of the lies you've been told as society, then you plunge it on top of dirty food, dirty water. They don't have a chance, man. They don't have a chance. So
I'm so glad you brought up the ECS. And, I mentioned this before that I had Dr. Stuart Titus on, and I believe the doctor that he cited that came up with this notion was Dr. Russo, and that's the endocannabinoid system deficiency. So like,
yes.
As you mentioned, right? Like over time, for the past like hundreds of years, we've consumed hemp oil, hemp seed. We've fed our cattle and livestock hemp, and we've made things out of it and whatnot. And after the regulations took place, our bodies, which are biologically inherently married to the plant, have suffered that deficiency of these cannabinoids. And it's pretty amazing, and it makes a lot of sense because of how many cannabinoids are found in the plant and what each of those specific cannabinoids do on the medicinal side, right? They kind of tackle different ailments. So it makes a lot of sense that you would want a full spectrum of those cannabinoids on a daily basis,
Oh, absolutely. Even infants aren't receiving that anymore. Actually in a mother's breast milk, I'm not sure if you know, but when a mother first starts producing breast milk, there's a very small portion called colostrum that is produced before actual milk comes in. That colostrum is so jam-packed with cannabinoids, it is insane. But what you're seeing more and more in hospitals is nurses and doctors are not encouraging immediate breastfeeding. They're encouraging the formula and things of that nature. So really, in a lot of times, our infants aren't getting that right out the gate as well. They should have some type of formula that's built for nursing mothers that aren't producing, where they do have a cannabinoid rich formula for newborns, and it's just not something we're doing. But I do believe that we're going into the age of Aquarius. It is the age of information, and I believe that people are rising up right now at this time in our world to start making sense of sense. I mean, all of these things that are right in front of your face. I mean, come on, you can't make it up that we have an ECS and this plant that grows naturally in a lot of different climates, naturally communicates directly with that ECS, but what? I mean, I don't understand. You should not need any more information than that. There's a root, it's like a little crabgrass that grows when you build new concrete. You could probably walk outside of your house and find some right now. But it's like, I forgot what the name of it is. I'm sure some of your listeners know, but it's like a crabgrass that grows over. And if you pick it up, it's rooted by one root, but it's kind of spans. And it usually grows in between the new concrete and your grass. That has more cannabinoid in it than a marijuana plant. But if they knew about that, then the weeds out on your sidewalk would be illegal. And I really, really believe, Kevin, with all of my being, that all of this has to do with our awareness. It has to do with our purpose here on this planet and what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we definitely know that the war on drugs, specifically with cannabis, was aimed at the minority population, right? The blacks,
Correct.
the browns, and there was that lie and that stigma that they associated with that group of people, with the reefer madness campaigns and all that kind of stuff. And there's a reason for that, right? I mean, one is the obvious reason, which is that the plant was a threat to industries, right? Because at the time, during World War II and whatnot, they were using hemp for rope for ships and all kinds of different.
You had to grow it. If you had land, you had to grow a portion of hemp for the government.
Right.
There's a book from Pennsylvania that has documented back from 2028, or not 2028, Jesus, I'm in the future, but way back in the day, where it's all these people's wills, and what they willed to their wives and to their children were, sown hemp. It was part of everyday life, medicine, living, culture, everything. And if you look at the history on how that became illegal, it was three men. One was in the pharmaceutical industry, Mr. Ford. So it was three men that actually paid for that lobbying, got all of that done. And I always thought it was so ironic that three men could do something so catastrophic for so many generations. And it's taken hundreds of thousands, probably millions of humans' lives to wash away the lie. It took three men to build a lie, and generations and generations to
well
debunk it.
You kind of see that with like different examples, and I may be butchering this, so don't quote me for sure, but I believe during the Reagan administration, he did some type of change in policy when it came to mental illness. And so, and I think a lot of people that were stuck in mental, facilities where they would help people with mental illnesses, they were released. And I think that has a lot to do with the overpopulation of homelessness in California and other places. So my point is that these decisions that are made now, really, you see when the dust settles and the impact of these decisions, like 30 to 40 years down the road. I mean, that's when it really becomes apparent. And
absolutely
problem,
Yeah, you're absolutely very right. We're going to start to see that too with, I don't want to bring it up, but the COVID vaccines, we have no idea what the repercussion of what they've put in there will have on my daughter's children. So I think it goes said with a lot of the things. I think that it's time for humanity to stand up and just enough is enough, man. Enough is enough.
And that's what goes, that's a good point for our third thing when we were talking about like why we've been fed these lies for so long. And that's the third point, is that if you've got more people that are smoking specifically THC, you start to do a little more reflecting, you're more aware, you start to think a bit more and start to become a little more enlightened in certain areas.
That's right.
Opposed to not. So I think that
correct.
Is the third reason why there's been this unwillingness and in fact hyper focus to demonize the plant.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you've noticed recently, but all of our leaders are starting to speak about AI and how did you see on channel Fox 4 News, Starship Federation, they have a symbol for it and everything now, talking about intergalactic military, which actually Trump set in place when he started his presidency. So it's been around for 4 years and we're just hearing about it. So bro, I'm telling you, this is the stage of this is the awakening that's happening. I believe it. I believe that I believe that this is it, man. I believe that those who are on this plane and this planet for bad will not be here for much longer. And I believe that those of us are here for good, to bring Earth to its next stage of vibration, which you hear people calling that 5D. I think that's why they have the 6 foot distance. I think I'm about to mess this one up, but we have aromatic or around us that we can communicate with each other. Man, for instance, let's talk about the guy that was sitting on the panel I told you about, that I saw that spirit attached to him. That had never happened to me. But like I told you, I know for a fact, because I'm living in my spirit right now, that I'm getting my gifts. I'm getting my downloads, these things that I've suppressed for so long because I've been called stupid and, oh my God, she's crazy. And I mean, we've made meditating weird. Oh my God, what are they doing? You know what I'm saying? So
That's true.
I absolutely believe that. So
Annie, are you starting? So, like, after that major experience that you had in Colorado with the shaman, have you since then been like microdosing? Or like, what have you been doing? Or are you just enlightened now off of that
So
one?
let's talk about it for a second. So a couple of things. I don't really think that the terminology microdosing DMT is out yet, but I'd like to normalize it, because I do think that if you did a portion that was enough to get you in that 10 to 15 minute window, that would be a phenomenal way to start your everyday. But you're going in there with intention, you're meditating, speaking to your spirit guides. What is my purpose today? Please make sure that I have, or, whatever the purpose is. Yes, I do think. But no, I mean, to answer your question, I have been microdosing shrooms, which I've been doing, for quite some time. But I did try, to do the DMT by myself the other day. And once I got in, I'm talking to my spirit guides, and they basically said to me, you've learned everything that you need to know at this point. Now we need for you to go do something. It's time to take action. So that's why I don't encourage DMT use unless you've done your education, you've spoken with someone, you've meditated, you've communicated with your God on the subject. Because there were a couple of times that I went in, I did a DMT journey, and I wanted to go in and communicate with the dimension to see if there was anything I could do to help them over there. And there were several times that once I got in there, I mean, they told me, hey, you're not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to be here.
Right.
And they, okay, let me head out of here. So, to answer your question, I really haven't done much more after that big journey because, and two, we are all awakened. All of us, we are all awake. It's the awareness that is the difference between myself and most others. Because literally it would take a 30-day regiment of 15 minutes of meditation every morning to get there. Yeah. And intentions, so
I want to go back to that point you made, because I totally agree. Like, this year has been such a year of, call it awakening, call it like, removing the veil to some things, but like it's almost so difficult to keep up with everything that we've uncovered and learned about this year, right?
That's why we're not supposed to.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to. We're literally supposed to disconnect ourselves from it and just live in the peace we're supposed to be living in.
That's why, yeah, of course, because that's where the systematic system that they
breaking down. They want us to freak out. Do you hear what they're saying right now? That they're about to fake an AI invasion.
So that's what I heard. I've heard that before. I didn't hear that as of recent, but I've listened to podcasts where they've said they're predicting that's the next false flag event, but at a global level.
Correct. It's entered like the whole planet, planetorial.
So that we all kind of, come together as a human race, and we jump behind a cause to fight the bad.
We'll have a decision to make. One of the biggest things is instilling fear. Oh my God, the aliens! They've been here forever. They were here before we were.
Did you hear? So that's what I wanted to ask you. Did you hear about the ex-Israeli science, the New York Post article? And so apparently, the government has made the article stated, don't quote me, that apparently the government has already made a deal with extraterrestrials or aliens, in that human race isn't ready for them yet. So until we are ready is when they can come out and we can, I guess, meet them.
This is the download I'm getting right now, is that's the government's way of acting like they have a ticket to the show we're not invited to. And let me tell you, the government, the lies, the separation of the Republicans and the Democrats, all of that is part of it. I mean, the separation is what it is. Your beautiful wife, my beautiful friend Brandy here, my kid, everybody will. It's kind of like the rapture, man. That's what I believe. Like, you read the rapture in the Bible, but I don't believe in heaven and hell. I believe that we will all have to make a decision. Are you here for good or are you not?
Yeah.
And those who are here for good will become one. We will unite and we will continue the purpose of humanity, which is high vibrational beings, loving one another, evolving with plants, not with chemicals. You know, we took a wrong turn somewhere in our evolution. And I don't know if you could agree to this, but when you take a look at it, when's the last decade we evolved?
That's a great point. And we talked about the example earlier of how policies and decisions affect 40 years from now. Think about, like you talked about earlier, the food, right?
Yeah.
When did fast food, the notion of fast food and everything, come about? What was that? The late 60s?
Yeah, the McDonald's thing, because he could make those burgers so fast, and it was just easy for the stay-at-home mom with all the kids,
Right.
Because her husband's at work, smoking the cigars, having the brandy after work, and she's taking care of these kids. So, I don't know if that's why McDonald made those burgers, but I'm feeling like he was thinking about single moms needing to make some dinner for their 27 children. So
initially, I think their intent was, hey, we're going to differentiate because we're going to make our service so fast. But
correct.
Time, that notion became very appealing to people that lived in low social economic areas.
That's right.
Have a lot of money, didn't have a lot of time. They had
stoves,
in 2 or 3 jobs, right? So it's just very easy to go and pick up some hamburgers, which I totally get. But now we need to consider the health factor, right?
Oh, absolutely. I'm glad you brought that point up because, our Turkish friend that we met in Houston, the Turkish pilot, food was something that we discussed. And he says, one of the greatest things about America's food is it's ready. You just put the water in it and pop it in there and it's ready. And that's not normal over there. And I said, but listen, it's probably because Turkey's got it outlawed because they know the gig. It's not healthy food. That food is killing us. It's creating obesity. You should not be able to cook meat 3 minutes in the guitar. In the microwave, in the guitar. Jesus, I need to medicate.
No, you're we're almost at an hour, but I want to ask you, so tell us a little more about Soil to Soul and how people can learn more about the company on like a website or social media.
Listen, man, I'm so excited that that's the part we're at because when the reason I was a tidbit late to our conversation is I was having a conversation with the king of pot. So you guys can look his name up. I don't want to blow any whistles. We're just in the beginning of our communication, but we as a company did get his blessing and he's going to support us. It's one of the only publicly traded hemp companies right now. But they have foot and force and retreat and healing people. So we're moving forward. What Danny and I decided after CBD Expo, which is going to be great news for your listeners because one, I believe you are giving away one of our retreats here. I believe you've already given one away. So we
away. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I gave one away in the hemp basket and we're going to do another giveaway here soon. So
awesome. So what we decided after the CBD Expo and just kind of me meeting with everybody and having the conversations I had and talking to some of the spirits that I conversated with, I realized that our price point was wrong. We want it to be more of a divine meeting. Like, dude, you're never going to believe how I wound up here. Like, that's what we're trying to do. So we actually lowered all of our ticket prices to $500 a ticket. And let me tell you why that's significant. It is on a first come, first serve basis, but where the $4,500 ticket was set, you get your own house, your own bed, your own bathroom, and everything that's incorporated, healing, your box, everything. And that was a $4,500 ticket price. What came to Danny and I is, dude, let's make that one at $500 and the cot one also at $500. So our ticket prices only change based on your accommodations. Because of course, with COVID-19, this building over here, you can fit 8 people in it. Well, this one over here, it's got 2 separate bedrooms. So that's kind of how we had broke the retreat up. You can have your own bedroom, your own bathroom, and that's a $1,500 ticket.
Okay.
Well, after the conference, we decided, you know what? We've got 30 spots and the top spot is a $4,500 spot. But you can get it for $500. It's first come, first serve. So you got to get on the website and pick your spot, but you're going to get the $500 spot. It's staying in the king of the king of the king suites, but you got to get there first.
Awesome. And
So, and yeah, I was, something just happened to me at that conference. It was such a beautiful, beautiful space for me. And that was like, dude, I was that girl that didn't have the $4,500. I was that girl. But I knew that I belonged there. I knew that that was my spot. But money, paper, greenbacks that humans created was the only thing keeping me from there, which is what I thought in my mind. So if we can get people to change that, no, baby, it ain't the money that got you there. It was your intent and purpose. So yeah, we've lowered every single ticket so you can get a whole house to yourself, or sleeping in the shared bunk room for $500, an all-inclusive experience. So 3 days, 2 nights, and our purpose is to heal and bring it back to breath work, meditation, yoga therapy. We've got a doctor, a healer working with us that focuses specifically in past life aggression therapy. We're working with physicians that are doing neuroemotional technology that's going to help you to learn how to communicate with your body and also hold your doctors accountable to their level of medicine.
wow.
They're the oath that they take is to not hide the truth from us and to heal us with all their power, knowledge, and intent. And that's not happening. So we really want to put that power back in the hands of the people. And by doing that, we did all the footwork. We found the healers. We got, the hemp companies that are going to be, supporting this money wise. So CBD did several, that CBD Expo. Thank you again, Celeste, did so much for us. Showed us the structure of Soil to Soul was a little bit too bougie, if you will. And we wanted to create that for the basic person, and also helped us to realize that we are right where we're supposed to be.
Yeah. That's so exciting. I'm so like happy for you, Annie, and that you found this path, or you were led to this path, and so where is there a website where people can find more information they can visit?
Absolutely, man. You can catch us at soiltosoul.me, and that's SoilTosoul.me. You can reach us on our email 24/7 at manifest at soiltosoul.me as well.
Awesome. And Annie, I'm so glad to have you on again, returning guest. So we'll definitely have to have you on at another time as things progress and we hear about the retreats that you've done in 2021. So is there anything you want to leave the audience with before we sign off?
Well, I just like to, always tell everybody, just live your spirit. And if you're searching for your purpose, you're all you need, and go within. Go within. So sit in silence and you'll get there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Annie, and I really appreciate everybody for listening. Hope you enjoy.
Thank you, Kevin. See you in the soil.
Bye.
Bye.